Are we ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Welcome everyone to Monday, May 12th, 2025, 6 p.m. for the Village Trustee meeting. Let's call this meeting to order. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I guess thanks technology, we're invisible, visible.
Right.
Apologize for the weird background effect, but it is what it is. Agenda review.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add? Okay. Public comment.
Public has no comment.
Public has no comment.
Thanks again for being here, Bill.
Thank you very much, public. Number 5, approve and accept minutes from Monday, April 28th, 2025, meeting as presented.
I move that we approve and accept the minutes from Monday, April 28th, 2025 as presented.
And I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second to approve the meeting minutes from April 28th, 2025. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Number 6, approve and accept village warrants through Thursday, May 8th, 2025.
I'll move that we approve the warrants through Thursday, May 8th, 2025.
And I will second that motion.
All right, we have a first and a second to approve the warrants through Thursday, May 8th, 2025. Any further discussion on the warrants? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried to accept the warrants. Number 7, federal relicensing of the Orman E. Croft Generating Facility update with village attorney Paul Nolan. Welcome, Paul, back.
Thank you.
And any significant change?
Unfortunately, no. The last time I gave a memo, I call it the Alpha to Omega memo, was back in April 2023. And at that time, we had just received back in December a letter from FERC resolving a dispute, supposedly resolving a dispute between the village and U.S. Fish and Wildlife from Vermont A&R. And the dispute centered on a longstanding difference of what's really science regarding downstream impacts from operation of the plant downstream all the way to Lake Champlain is what Vermont wanted to study. And we disputed, we said we aren't going to do it. We did a study that we feel was sufficient for purposes of describing how when we impact, when we're releasing waters for peaking operations, what it does downstream. You know, does it hurt the environment? Is there any adverse significant impacts? You know, do the fish really care that there's another couple inches of water on top of them? Finding out and documenting that it's really a great area for diversity of mussels, which is an indication like a canary in the bird cage in the tunnel. You know, this is good water quality, good habitat downstream. Our plant operations for the past 60 years have done nothing to degrade that. But you do have a state agency that is throws its weight around, frankly, has been litigated a lot. A lot of the case law that controls issuance of the 401 water quality certificates came through Vermont. They've been so successful in their litigation that when they impose a term and condition in the water quality certificate, which we have to have in order to get a new license, FERC has no choice under the way the regs are structured now, that they have to incorporate that. And this is kind of the heart of what Morrisville, if you're somewhat familiar with that, they say, you know, you shall keep this impoundment level this high. We said, FERC said that could impact the safety of the Morrisville Green River Dam. You go to the state, did you guys do any engineering on this? Nope. So they've been doing for the last 2 years engineering on it at the state expense because we weren't going to pay. Our problem here is that we feel that we have proven that there was no adverse impacts downstream, but you have a state agency that has a religion of no peaking operations. They want what they call natural flow of the river, unless it involves a couple other plants, which I'm not going to get into, but I haven't documented where that doesn't seem to be natural flow. Whitewater releases. I am a member of the AWA, so I can say that. I even buy their damn gear, their shirts. They're comfortable. That they want releases made on Miskoy up at Shelton Springs. They're gonna ramp it, 500 CFS every so often, which is mimicking peaking operations. Well, that's not natural flow, but they're gonna get it, because the Miskoy people agreed to do that and then not peak for other times. Puts a lot of pressure on us. So we basically, when I wrote that report, we were just at the baby steps of consulting with the agency. Okay, FERC said, do this, what we call a very simple study. We knew that it wasn't gonna satisfy the agency. Why do a study that just satisfies FERC when we turn around and have to get a 401 application, they tell us to redo or do the whole study over. So we tried to close the door by doing a little more comprehensive study. That still was within the budget of what FERC was estimating for their more simplistic effort. And we got that rolling in 2023. We were out in the field getting data. We came back to FERC and said this is going to take longer to collect the data for the site, because you need many months of data at different points. So we have gotten a series of extensions of time. Most recently, we had a deadline to submit the final report on March 25th of this year. And we already had a draft report done, and we had circulated to the agency at the beginning of the year. We asked for their comments, and we told FERC, based upon what they've come back at, they came back with, well, we'd like you to tweak the modeling, do some different math, stand on your head, whatever you want, it's, so we looked at it and we said, well, in order to do this their way, to do some more modeling, it's not a big cost, but it's time consuming because these people are tied up. The modeling is actually done in the state of Washington. So we told FERC, we're gonna do what the agency wants. It's gonna take until the end of the year. So I just picked, being a smart ass, the same deadline as we had back in 2023. FERC came back a couple months ago and said, we've looked at your draft report. We think you got everything that we, FERC, need. So send us the final report July 6th. Finalize your environmental report to include what mitigation measures you are now proposing. We're done with you on that stage. We don't care, and it's in the letter, it's a public letter. We don't care that the agency wants more studies, more work. And even the agency came back in their last round correspondence saying, well, what you've done is good, but we reserve the right to ask for more. Well, so now we're at the point to explain that once we file this report in July, it's gonna take FERC a couple of months, assuming we still have a FERC for reasons. I mean, there's been a lot of changes personnel-wise, which I don't need to get into the politics of. They're at some point in the fall, September, October, they may try to do it before the end of the fiscal year, because that seems to be a driver for a lot of things they do. They'll issue a notice of ready for environmental assessment. It's just a NEPA compliance, for Environmental Protection Act.
Is it a rubber stamp?
It's just a notice, and what it does, it requires us to then go to Vermont within 60 days, and now we're into November, December, to file an application for a 401. And you see I'm being kind of dismissive of FERC, because they're not the tail that wags the dog.
Right.
The tail that wags the dog is the 401 process, because if they don't grant it or waive it, then we're stuck with whatever terms and conditions they impose. They can impose a high min flow in the bypass reach. They're gonna say no peaking, run a river, aesthetic flows 24/7. Even though for me, it's a nice bridge, it's a nice view, but I rarely ever, unless people are walking the trail there, do I ever see anyone there. You certainly don't see anyone fishing, nor should anyone be fishing in the bypass.
Right, exactly.
But, they ask these questions. So then the question, or what I propose to you, is that there are several interim steps. The 401 is a mess. It's a minefield. Well, due respect to use that. You had 1971 regulations, then you had people saying 71, now we're into the 20s. We gotta look at these things again. So they were looked at in 2020. We had new regulations that tried to claw back some of the authority that Congress had given to the states because they found that the states were doing things more than just water quality. You know, they were doing climate change, you know, the aesthetic flows, the recreational flows. This has nothing to do with your ability to drink or swim in this water, or certainly nothing downstream for fish. So you've had a lot of litigation in 2020. Then a new president came in, and the first thing he did was he said, you know, we're striking that 2020 regs, we'll come up with new regs. So they come up with, in 2023, they come up with new regs. And of course, all these regs are being litigated. So, and I just circulated a congressional report to Bill. And even the congressional report does a great job of summarizing everything. They say, this is really complicated, you know, don't rely on this yourself. But it's a great reader, primer. And it kind of sets that, some people are saying we should only look at the discharge. What does that do? Other people say, what's the activity? The activity is hydropower. Well, how do we, what should we include in our terms and conditions to regulate the activity? That's where they get the whitewater releases, the aesthetic flows. If we're just looking at the discharge, we would say, what does this discharge do? Why are we looking at it so far downstream? Where you have lower Swanton dams that influence, the bridges that influence, the other bridge upstream, the walkway, you know, every bridge and trestle tends to back up the water, high flows, that has the impact sometimes more than what we're doing. And we only, just for my own, it helps me to say, we don't operate the whole river, we only operate a narrow band of the flows. And when you see these storm events that we're having more of, those are the ones that have the greatest impact, especially removal of the gravel and sandbars. So we do a study, we look at the bathymetric profile of the stream, and then we come back a year or two later, it's different. And it's different every time because of the storm events or the ice jams. Nothing to do with the hydro. So one thing, it's a little bit of strategy, but I don't put it, I just, is when we get this notice of ready for environmental assessment, we got 60 days to file the application. Well, technically the application is not complete for Vermont A&R because we know they want to tweak things. I feel that I don't want to play this game. I want to say, Vermont A&R, are you willing to accept our reports as is, whereas no more studies, no more information? Because we feel it supports what we're saying, that we have no adverse impacts downstream that require mitigation in the form of switching from peaking to run a river. That's the game.
Yep.
Your mitigation is to give up peaking. They don't care what the dollar cost would be to you. They don't care that it affects your load management practices. This is their religion, run a river. I'm willing to say, FERC, I'm not filing for that request until I have something from them saying no more games, no more studies, because we want them to have a complete application. Because once they have that application request, they have a year to either grant the 401 request or deny it. And they can grant it with conditions, they could waive it too, which is highly unlikely. But there are things that, frankly, you as an elected body, and for what Montpelier's worth or not, or even Congress, can at least push, or at least state your ground. Because this is what's happening down in Washington, is that you do have executive order requiring Department of Justice to look at how state agencies are hindering energy development in this country, because that's what's happening. You can't get a pipeline built, can't get a transmission line built, can't get hydro, can't get other infrastructure. They think we're going to solve everything with nuclear. Good luck. We don't even have the regulations in place for small nuclear yet. But in my area, we have a lot of data centers, and we're looking at huge electric bills that people are just starting to pay attention to as they drive by in their Teslas or whatever hybrids I should select. So that's in a nutshell. You haven't seen me a lot. There hasn't been a lot for me to really do other than manage some of the study process with Just Water, your consultant, Becky Thar. And she's been very good at just staying out of the fray, just keep it at the science level when she talks to Vermont A&R. And I just keep waiting for them to invite me to their Christmas party, which is never going to happen.
They hear your name enough. So for the Board of Trustees, understand that you have every legal right, if you feel we are heading down a true strategic legal path discussion, to go in executive session. Paul will stick around for that. Well, that being said, I don't think there's anything to hide. I think an open and honest dialogue about what we're trying to do here is pretty sincere and pretty well known. This is happening throughout Vermont. We have partners in Enosburg and Morrisville that have gone through a little bit ahead of us, about 7 years ahead of us, 2 years ahead of us. So now that they have declined our extension of time on the federal level, it does kick this in. One of the things that we've talked about is if you say that, are you gonna receive our report, that 1 year timeline kicks in. If they come back otherwise and say do some more studies, it does buy us more time, albeit costs more money.
Well, it also puts me in the position of having to tell FERC to go pound sand, which I've been known to do.
So who, I mean, obviously, I don't wanna be on A&R side, I wanna be on FERC side and just where we're staying.
FERC, the problem with FERC is, what they wanna do is they wanna process applications. They don't wanna maximize your I won't say profits, because that's the wrong term for a municipality. They don't wanna minimize the costs of the ratepayers. That's not their, they've long gone, have they gone into the economics and practicality of what people did. They just wanted to get these things pushed out the door.
So is there a big brother somewhere in FERC that we can say, look, give us a letter stating we've done everything possible and this report is final?
It's final for FERC's purposes, that's all they're gonna say. They're gonna stay in their little lane and say, we've done the NEPA document. They will even say, and they do say, and they said even with Mooresville, we don't think you need this, we don't think you need this term and condition. And those things typically come out, like they'll do the EA and they'll look at what's and they'll comment on it. Then when the 401 comes out, they'll issue the license with it, because they can't really decline it. We can decline it and start a whole new storm, if you will, because we may just say this is too onerous to operate, and that may wake up. That's a hard, bold move.
It is, but I think that's what A&R wants.
Well, they
A&R has an
they'll think
agenda.
you'll cave and that you'll give them the run of river before you say, no, we don't want the license and we'll surrender the project.
And we have a lot of legal recourse up to that point, including the Supreme Court in Vermont. So,
Yeah.
and that's years, that could be years away.
Right.
I just,
Well, it's
somehow we need to force A&R's hand just to simply say, we're done. We've come as far as we could. Here's the 401. We're gonna call it a day.
the advantage of having this study done the way we've gone about it is that the science is in there. The Mooresville they were arguing policies. Should hydro be considered an existing use, and it's not presently. So they weren't getting credit on that. We also have the Supreme Court decision where they overturned the Chevron deference. And in Mooresville, you actually had the judge in environmental court say this aesthetic flow requirements doesn't make any sense. He says, I'm convinced that Mooresville has it right, that they documented and supported it. But because the agencies felt that it should be different, he deferred to the agency's judgment because of their so-called expertise, which they really don't have. Interesting as an aside, because that's what I seem to do the most. The aesthetic study in Mooresville, they typically will do flows and they'll have people rate, oh, that seems pretty good, that seems okay. 4 of the people were working for a Vermont agency. They were actually the people who then rule on. It's like a circular firing squad. What result did you think you were going to get? And you'll notice if you ever look at the Vermont agency letters, they're like, why don't they just say yay or nay? Instead, they, like FERC, they go through the whole history because they're salting the mine for litigation. They're preparing the record. And they've been doing that for years. And they did that for years against Morrisville. And Morrisville, at that point, thought they had an agreement on withdrawal and resubmit, and that they were making progress in their negotiations. And finally, Vermont said, "Now here's your 401," and it's going to happen again here in Vermont. Some other projects where people. So one option, which would go into, and it's not really strategy because it's out there, it's public, is get the study done with FERC, have FERC say, we're fine, we're gonna go to notice for environmental assessment, say, fine. Now we have enough information at the FERC federal agencies, us fashion a settlement agreement that not only takes care of the FERC license, but the 401. And with that, we have, all right, we think this is the adequate flow for bypass, here's how we'll do min flows. And realize that when we talk about peaking, we're not going to peak during the spawning season for walleye. I was reminded of walleyes today by someone. Where are the walleyes in Misquote? This is the same agency that puts muskie in there. What do you think the muskie eat? If the walleye are there, they eat them. But okay, I'm gonna give up that, argument. But go with a settlement, addresses the water quality, addresses the recreation, addresses historic preservation, cultural issues, everything that we should. Because the village has done a good stewardship. I mean, years ago, you spent a lot of money on cultural, when the impoundment was gonna be raised, and you're gonna inundate the road back there. So we're at 190, but we did it as if we're gonna be at 200 and above with a buffer. So there's no reason to be hearing anything more about that, even though during our scoping session, they came late to the party and wanted more studies, because they think hydro licensing is like giving an ATM to some of these agencies, your ATM.
Right.
So I think, so I can tell you right now, I push back on doing the 401 application, I push on settlement, and see if everyone's gonna be reasonable or not. I will be reasonable.
Yes, he will.
Really, I can. I practice. Hey, I got through that Court of Appeals thing with Morrisville, now making 4-letter words in front of the judges, except for one. Well, what do you think about FERC's art? It was a rebuttal. I'm sorry to do this. What do you think about it? And it's so dry, my mouth is dry. The previous people arguing took all the water, damn lawyers. And I said, all I could get out was, that's malarkey. And I sat down. Maybe that's why it's taking them so long to decide one. My citation of malarkey. But I think, a settlement proposal would frame it.
But would it benefit us?
I think it will, because it involves people, involves all the agencies. You file it before FERC. They have to look at it. They can't say no. You have to if they say no, they have to give a reason why. And the only reason they could give is because Vermont won't sign off on it and give you a 401. Well, you can't take down that to your
reason.
people, down to Montpelier and say, look at this. This is why are we spending ratepayer money on this stuff?
Exactly. I mean, we're trying to keep rates low. There's a reason for that.
So, and there's a minor issue off to the side if you want to go into the 9.7 megawatts or.
They know we're looking at nameplate based upon
Yeah.
pen stock restrictions, so
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's going to be part of the, so I'm going to bring that into the revised application, call it the corrections. Because we've always dealt with, and this is a problem with FERC, because they issue a license and they say, here's your maximum capacity, here's your maximum flow, and you find out it has nothing to do with the reality of how you actually can operate that plant, because you're constrained by your pen stock.
Right.
Their regs say, well, they're regs for convenience, because it's easier for FERC to have 2 apples and 2 oranges and say the answer is 4. We should throw tomatoes in there, because then we can argue whether it's a fruit or vegetable. But now with this Chevron thing thrown out, you say, maybe you can't get the way you always want it. Maybe we have to look at the way the statute's written, that you can impose annual charges. And there are exemptions for munis. And you look at these orders, and this may fall on me, but so when I started looking at this issue, I said, if I read this license, I'd say, I gotta pay. because they don't tell you there's an exemption for munis. And I think one thing I would say that all the munis here have to start thinking that we as muni electric systems need the regs to conform to help us deliver on our services. Because we're being held to a standard like Green Mountain Power, which doesn't care. They'll go run a river. They peak at some sites,
Oh, absolutely.
but they, we're modifying this, but well, that's not. But they ultimately don't care because they don't answer to, they say they do, but they don't answer to municipal ratepayers. Right. They answer to Canada.
Yeah.
Which, just so everyone knows, most of our hydro is owned by foreign countries.
More malarkey.
It is. And it's done by the Department of Energy, which has a restriction on foreign control of companies, but they never look at who owns all our hydro and transmission lines.
Bill, is it worth a conversation with the governor?
No, not at this point.
No?
No, the governor has always been a strong advocate of any secretary he puts in at the cabinet level, and he will defer to them unless there's reason not to. I think the path is continue to working with Paul as our attorney and to do the settlement proposal. And we'll get a yay or a nay from both parties, from A&R as well as from FERC. And then that will set forth a path. We can do regular updates. All of this is going to trigger what is going to be a very long process to get to the finish line.
In the settlement that you're proposing, we would not have any changes to the way that we're currently doing business with P.E.G ponding that.
The only changes we would make would be is what we've already proposed, which is to accommodate a little more recreation facilities, accommodate a longer spawning season, not to, when flows are below 450 CFS, we would not peak. And I expect, because the agencies, we've asked them for comments, so they should have come back and said, well, how are you gonna ramp up and ramp down the impoundment, ramping rates? And they've never talked about that, so we're gonna have to come up with some proposals in the settlement. Yeah. And sometimes these settlements are nothing more than like, we'll give you a plan for it within 90 days of a new license. But you can come up with, talking to your engineers and your operators, how do we currently operate this? And then you may look at add-ons to a 401 that you want to have a little more flexibility, because like even as when we used to have these, when we first started this process, we had all the agencies come out, and Reggie's going to, we have periodic report inspections from FERC. This is the first time you come out in 20 years to see what we're doing here. So there's all kinds of bells and whistles that we could put in to show you that we're being good stewards, that we're not just throwing everything back into the river, bouncing it up and down. I mean, there's good operational, you have good operational data compared to, you have good operation data. Compared to other hydros, they have none, even though they're supposed to. Dan's bigger than I, so.
And it is a good point for the record, right? We have our chief hydro operator here wearing two hats tonight as fire chief and hydro operator. Dan, you didn't hear anything in there that's offensive. We talked about this a great deal in terms of anything to give up there that's not too concerning.
No, I read the original proposal
Yeah.
and I'm 100% supportive of it. I mean, an extra 15 days responding and all those things, that's fine. We're doing it right now currently.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I would probably say just have Paul do what he suggested with FERC in the final report, and then we move forward.
So settlement proposal at the same time, continue to explore nameplate designation with the penstock restrictions, because theoretically we can ask them for some money back, because
We're not
if we had a waiver.
Right, well, I think that's ultimately, because the way it's written, it was so onerous that anyone reading that would just say, just pay it,
Yeah.
and here's and this is done throughout municipalities. And every year, what I find out is that they ask for a waiver because they technically make no profit because it's, low-cost power, and they buy it. And that's just, to me, just a stupid way to run a program. I mean, it should be like, get a waiver, and if there's a material change, like suddenly you decide that you're gonna become part of Green Mountain, then maybe you lose the waiver. But I don't wanna say that I'm gonna go talk to Doge about this or not, but this is a good example of just over-regulation for the sake of counting angels on the head of a pin.
And you've heard the discussions internally, right? We want to get under 10 so that when at the state level, we can advocate. Like VEPSA always goes and testifies about small muni hydros under 5 megawatts. Well, that doesn't help us.
No.
So I often say, well, they look at me and say, what about 10? Well, currently that does not help us. And it jumps like right to 20. So we're so close, we want to be under 10. We think it can increase our ability to get grant funding, to have better recognition at the state and federal level, all of the above.
Yeah, there's no magic in any of those numbers, it's just when they were writing the regs. And I worked for some of the people who wrote the statutes, when they went to the agencies to write the regs, and they formed private law firms to explain everything they did. And then they argued amongst themselves who did what. But 5, 10, even 30 is another number that's in the PURPA Act. That's why I think there should be a municipal exemption. If you're a municipal hydropower, maybe you don't need licenses, you get a permanent exemption from licensing. You're still subject to all the regulation, but why go through all this relicensing, have periodic changes, tweaking?
Right.
Because it's very hard for you to do, or for others who are trying to now do infrastructure changes, because these licenses come to the end just about the time the equipment needs to be upgraded. And now you're trying to get more plates spinning in the air. All right, so I don't have anything else to offer unless there's questions.
Okay.
So, Paul, we go ahead with this application, this 401 application. We're gonna have to do some extended studies that they suggest.
I think what's gonna find out is that when FERC has already said that they feel they have enough information to address the NEPA issue from a FERC standpoint under the Federal Power Act. What more? They used to do water quality before there was all of this. FERC did everything. Now you have these agencies basically taking everything that FERC has done, and then they say, okay, now that's our application, refile it with us, and then they screw around with stuff for a year. And want to say, what did we get out of that? Well, what you got out of Morrisville is you got loon nesting. That's what the impoundment's about. And and then the AWA and the Nature Conservancy, they think they get something because they get either easements or they get whitewater release days. And how many whitewater, they don't even coordinate them. Like, are you making a whitewater release on Muskogee today? Are they doing Lamala? Are they doing it, Clyde or the Winooski? They don't coordinate these days. And it's frankly the same bunch of people, that go up. It's like me, I go to different diving spots, but I don't go one, it's all 10 in the same day. But that's the way you would think this was going.
What boggles my mind is they suggest you do these studies, which you have to pay for, and you do the studies for them, and they don't even, it doesn't seem like they consider it. They just add more studies to it. And I don't know if they even analyze what you give them for the scientific justification of the way you're doing business.
They analyze them sufficiently enough to ask more questions, so they don't look
Which means they don't
unreasonable.
understand it.
Yeah.
But
in my opinion.
What's happened quite a bit on several things, like we asked for an administrative amendment in Morrisville, and every time we go, what's going on? This seems to be taking awfully long, because it's just an administrative amendment. There's no environmental assessment involved. So what happens? They come out with another information request, because they want to explain why they haven't talked to us in a year. And I think what you find with the agencies is that it's documented, at least for us, that all they wanted was another data set, another this. Did you think about doing this grid this small? And you go, again, the bottom of where we're doing it, especially below Swanton Dam, again, angels on the head of a pin. How how micro can we look at this? It's not gonna tell us it. And meanwhile, this is about strategy, because this is me being, I mean, I want to FOIA the US Fish and Wildlife, because I want to report, because last time I came through here, they were putting lampricide in the river. Well, lampricide kills the very things we're supposed to be protecting, the stone cats.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to issue a report on how many were killed while they were trying to kill the sea lamprey, which, by the way, now in some areas they're trying to protect. It makes no sense. It's like paper bags and plastic bags. What's the flavor this week? Do I go with paper or plastic? I've been around too long, sorry.
But how long can we run on just our current license?
Our current-
We've run, what, 3 years now so far?
No, it automatically renews annually, so, but go ahead.
As long as we're diligently pursuing that application, it automatically renews, and the longest has been 26 years.
So we're only 23 years away.
I better put a portrait up in my attic. You know, Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
23 years. No, I'm not really efficient. Maybe a Polaroid.
We can do what A&R does, set it on the shelf and have it
So-
send an email in a year.
You know, the federal cutbacks are supposed to have a huge impact on the state agencies, particularly Vermont, because they fund a lot of this stuff. I have filed privately comments that EPA needs to bring back these regs. And it's counterintuitive because, you know, so much in Washington now wants the states to do it. But I think for things like water quality, and I even said they shouldn't do it by states, they should do it by river basins. Just like you have Lake Champlain and Muskogee, you're gonna look at holistically, what do we need to do for those areas for water quality? You have states like Vermont and New Hampshire constantly arguing over who gets the crack at whom on, you know, Connecticut River or New Hampshire and Maine on the Salmon River, because they want to co-write their 401s.
Right.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, I don't want to take a, if there's no questions, I'll just shut up.
No,
It's
that's
kind
not
of like what I told the
I got more
judges.
opinions, but
Yeah, I know.
they're not gonna help.
No, probably just as well.
interesting.
So we'll do the biblical approach, we'll hold firm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Do the trustees see any need for our esteemed attorney to stick around for executive session?
No, sir.
Good.
Thank you.
You are free to go.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
I
Yes, thank
appreciate
you.
coming up here in good weather. Last time I spent 8 hours in the airport trying to get up here.
Yeah, that's not fun.
As long as it wasn't
Yeah,
Newark.
get it next week.
Let me know when you want to follow up later this week. We'll connect.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you were here when they were putting the hillside in, down by the dam?
Yeah, I drove by and, you know, there's their trailer and, you know, and
Yellow water.
they,
Yeah.
you know, and then they put in muskie and they, you know, you say, well, where's all your environmental stuff? Well, they're exempted, so.
Usually make you go,
This was good.
Are you gonna grill Dan? Because I'll stick around for that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, the trustees might.
depends how we feel after
You're doing
this
so well today.
No more sneaking into the plant either.
I got him inside door today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Turn around, there's Paul.
Well, thank you
Security's
very
not
much.
working
and
down there.
Thank you.
My,
Bill's got a key out.
I know.
my wife appreciated the award, the recognition, and
Yeah.
the only thing I had out of that was something from Oswego where I did a TV show with the mayor, and my daughter looks at it and goes, and I was wearing a suit. She didn't know what a suit looked like on me.
Well, we'll send you this video as well. I'll send you the link.
yes,
I might have
thank
to
you for your
join
time.
witness protection just to screw this all up.
Thank you, Paul. Is
Have a
that
good
your
evening,
highlighter?
Paul. Let's see, I gotta get my clothes.
Is that your
Yeah.
highlighter
Oh,
on
yeah.
the desk? Yeah. Stage.
moving on along. Number 8, Swanton Village Fire Department update with Chief Dan Chevalier and Assistant Troy Campbell. Welcome, guys.
No Troy Campbell.
No Troy Campbell?
Captain.
Lawrence? Okay.
So unfortunately, Troy got called in to go work on the trains,
Good night, Paul.
Is that you?
Oh, that's someone else.
Okay.
so I have with me here Captain Lawrence Boise. Just to fill you in as well, Lawrence just isn't our captain, he's also the head of the maintenance department for the fleet itself. So the quality and maintaining of the fleet and the condition of the fleet, which is excellent right now, goes a lot of credit goes to him and the crew that he's running. So I just want to make everybody aware that we are successful because of his leadership in that area. So. All right, this is not my best printout that I've done. Apologies, my next one will be better. The top graph you're looking at is the call volume for the village. This is as of Friday. We've had a couple calls since then, but 4 vehicle accidents, 2 vehicle fires, 9 fire alarms, 4 CO calls, 13 med assist, assisting MBR, 3 good intents, 3 smoke investigations for a total of 38 in the village. The graph below that is the town of Swanton. I only break these up because of the 2 different boards. The next page, when we get to it, is actually how I see it for the most part. For the town of Swanton, 30 motor vehicle accidents, 1 vehicle fire, 7 fire alarms, 3 structure fires, 1 grass fire, 2 gas leaks, 1 rose hazard, 3 CO calls, 3 med assist, 1 smoke investigation. When you look at the 2 pie charts, you can see that geographically, depending on where we're responding, the work and the duties we have to perform are completely different, whether you're inside the village or out of it.
Dan, is most of your MBAs on the interstate?
Actually, I can pull the report for you. No, it varies. I mean,
Okay.
Woods Hill, 207, that's a hot spot.
Yep.
We do have a substantial amount
That
of interstate, but it's
The intersection?
yeah, it's the intersection tends to be the hot spot. Problem is when I run the report, it breaks it up by mile marker too. So it's just
Okay.
like if you want to know which mile marker. Route 7, 78 is another hot spot
Yeah.
headed towards West Swanton. And then 12 mutual aid calls for a total of 64 calls in the town. The next page is the one I look at the most when I'm sitting in front of my laptop, and that's Swanton as a whole. At the time of compiling this, we had 102 calls, with 12 of those being mutual aid. I changed how I monitor mutual aid from last year and from the previous administrations, because when I say I go mutual aid, you don't know what we're doing. It's just we go mutual aid and we want to help somebody else. I've changed how I monitor that into 3 categories: standing by their station, assisting in a fire, or water rescue. So we've had 5 standing by other stations for other departments, and then we've had 7 going directly to somebody else's house fire and assisting them in whatever capacity, from fire attack to water supply or whatever they need. The 3rd category, water rescue, is 0 right now. I broke it up also because it's important for you, the community, everybody online to understand that we are, except for the P.E.G boat, we are the only boat north of the Albert Bridge. There's nobody else. Highgate has sold their boat, Albert no longer has one. So when it comes from north of the Albert Bridge all the way to the Canadian border, we are at to include Highgate's jurisdiction. This year, and I wish Troy was here to talk about this, I don't know the dates and times, but there's work being done on the trestle, so the trestle will not open. So you will not see Coast Guard north of the trestle as well. They're not coming. They called us approximately a week and a half ago and saying, you're on your own, because the trestle is getting some work done. So we do have a very good mutual aid agreement with Phillipsburg and the other Canadian departments up there. There's only one that has a boat big enough for the lake, so we have them as an asset, but we kind of really are on our own, and that's important to express here.
What about St. Albans Town?
Can't make it to the trestle.
Oh, yeah.
North Hero can't make it to the trestle.
Yep.
Because that railroad trestle is closed, we essentially are on our own the whole time.
Yep.
I don't know the duration of the work. Again, I can ask Troy to update you guys on that, but it is kind of concerning because
Yeah.
if PD's tied up, it's just us. The next page is just, I like looking at this, and I think it's important for you guys to say, each dot represents a location for a call. The picture below it is Swanton and surrounding areas to include the mutual aid. It gives you an idea of how far out to go and how far our mutual aid is, what we help and who actually comes to the Swanton and helps us. I recently entered into an agreement with Rouse's Point to have a mutual aid agreement with them. Now, what does that do for them? It gives them access to us and our ladder truck and our tankers. What does that do for us? West Swanton, Lakewood Drive, the campground, anything in that area, they will be coming along with Alberg, North Hero, Isle and Grand Isle. So it's that, and they are a decent sized department. They're comparable to us. So having them on the West Swanton end coming in, this is at no cost. It's a mutual beneficial. We help you, you help us. And our certifications are good in New York, so there's no fear of any of that. So. And then this last page here, even though I do have some more stuff to go over, the town select board had asked me this question, and this is my first chance to get before you. Everybody asked what our fire rating was. Well, this is how I have to see it as chief of the department, and how ISO sees it as well. We go off a point system now. Our current rating is 50.89 out of 105.5. The max you can get is 105.5, and we're at 50.89. There's 4 different categories that they break it up, and those are in front of you: community risk reduction points, water points, fire department points, and emergency communication center points. This is something that hasn't been audited or looked at since 2014. I'd like to take this on. There's a lot of work involved, because when you start working with them, things like truck certification, which is something Lawrence works on, fit testing, air pack certification, pump testing, hose testing, they take all that into consideration. You know, if you have bad hose, they're not gonna give you credit for it. This is something I would like to take on and work on with more, because I believe there's a lot of opportunities to raise that score. An example would that be is all the hydrants on Wall Farm Road, you're not getting credit for those in our fire rating. The new hydrant out on 207 by the new state garage, you're not getting credit for that. The homeowner's insurance in that area are not getting credit for that, because this has not been updated.
Right,
So-
new dry hydrant too that you're putting in.
Yep, the new dry hydrant as well. So, the community, just to kind of break down the categories a little bit, to explain what these are, the community risk reduction is code enforcement, which we don't do because none of us are certified to do. You would have to hire a full-time code inspector. That'd be extremely costly. We actually don't get any credit from that. I'm gonna work with the fire marshal's office to see if when they do an inspection, is that something, if one of us goes along, will we get credit for that, for this rating? Safety education. Apologies, if you look at the community risk reduction points, you see that 1.1, that's our actual rating. The 2.32, the hard solid line, that's the national average. So we're below the national average. Again, code enforcement, there's an area to potentially see if we can get some more points in that area. Safety education, we're getting 0.44 when the national average is 0.85. Again, you have to click on these categories on the computer to dive in as deep as what I'm talking about. I didn't print all those out. Fire investigation, we're right where we're supposed to be, but there is room for growth in that one. Water points, the water treatment facility is our biggest contributing factor, that's 16.6. Our hydrants also are a contributing factor. We're getting really high points for those. Hydrant inspection and flow testing, they're not getting told that we're doing that, and they should be, and I think that'll bring that 16.6 up closer to that 19. Again, increasing our numbers, eventually, hopefully getting better insurance rates through ISO New England, or not ISO New England, sorry, different hat, ISO, fire rating. The fire department points, that's the one that we have the most amount of control over, because that's anything from the apparatus to the pump capacity to how we deploy, the number of personnel trained, and the number of backup apparatus. So the fact that we have a ladder, you're getting Out of the 27.99, you're getting 4 points just for having a ladder. You get rid of the ladder, you lose those 4 points. Pump capacity. When I talked about the mini pumper, and I'm gonna bring that up again. Our pump capacity is 3 out of 3. We start dropping trucks, you start losing pump capacity. Deployment, how we deploy, how our SOGs and SOPs are written, we're getting 8.75 out of 10. That's pretty decent marks. Personnel and how they're trained, we're getting 3.54 out of 399. I mean, we're right there. And as long as we hold that line, it's pretty decent. The emergency communications center points, that's our radio system, that's our pager system, that's how we're called out. We're at 6.59, or sorry, we're at 8.1 with the national average at 6.59. So the biggest contributing factor for that one is how well dispatch is, and how they're staffed, how they operate, and whatnot. So we get a lot of points based upon that. So, like I said, I think there's room for growth in here. I'd like to start doing work in this area. I have to work with them more to make sure that I understand the process better, because again, if your hose isn't tested, they don't get the credit for it. So I have to now go back and see what's been done, what still needs to be done to ensure that we're getting enough credit for these things. So just kind of a little snapshot into what we have and where we could be going.
What's the divergence?
So I click on that, and that is kind of like a default to where every department has flaws. Different times of day when you can't staff the way you say you can. So it's like a default point system to where they give you to where, okay, you say you're gonna do this, but you'll always do it. 2.9 is, okay, you're not gonna be able to do it 100% of the time.
Gotcha.
So, but, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of room for growth in here, and I think if we can do enough work in this area, I think you may see a change in how we're charged for our homeowners insurance and homeowners and business assessments. So.
Now, when you were talking earlier about the apparatus and we're gonna be doing the swaps, is that gonna bring that pointage down for you?
When I call them, they say no.
Okay.
Because we're already getting 3 out of 3 for pump capacity. We're actually over it. We should be getting like 4 or 5 out of 3, but they don't do that.
Okay.
So when if we're allowed to make the switch, we'll be still at 3 out of 3.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And the average is for the entire town, right? Not just the village area where the hydrants are. Yeah, this is overall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. ISO sees us as a hydrant district and non-hydrant, not village and town. When you look at the map, there's no lines other than where the hydrants are. But again, there's hydrants that don't even exist yet, that aren't in the program that should be. I think that's gonna help a lot.
It'll be interesting to see what you can do with it.
Yeah, again, it was 2014 was the last one, so we're 11 years when I called them, and we've talked several times so far, and they're like, "You're due for another one." I'm like, "Slow down, like, I'm not gonna open up a can of worms just yet." So, the update on the department is morale is high. We have an excellent crew. We're lucky to have every single member we currently have. Currently, we have 21 members of the department. You don't have this information. These are my notes. Apologies. We have 21 members on the department. 20 out of the 21 are state level certified, either level 1 or level 2. I think it's like 99%. That's the highest we've ever had. That's awesome. It's a testimony to the dedication of the members. The only person who's not certified actually is just becoming 18 and is graduating out of the cadet program, so they haven't had time to get certified. So. We did lose a couple members from previous times that come before you. We had a gentleman, him and his wife moved to Texas and they're starting a new life. They're about to have their firstborn child. It's hard to compete with lifestyle changes to where job, location, you can't, we're a volunteer department, so. I'm glad Heidi's here, because I talked to you last week. The update, and I believe you probably talked about it, but I will as well, the exhaust system grant. Last time we talked, you said it wasn't dead in the water.
Correct.
But we don't know where it's at. So unfortunately it goes to FEMA, and FEMA is in a level of turmoil right now. There hasn't been any change to that.
I have no new information. They called the end of April and asked questions about it, which is good, because I had assumed it was a non-starter. But still alive, so I assume we'll hear soon.
So hope is
It's got a heartbeat.
It's got a heartbeat, that's right.
Stone triage. So, we were awarded the grant for the dry hydrant at Johns Bridge. Myself, Heidi, and Dean have had a meeting about that just recently, talking about schedules for ordering the material, who's doing what, and the actual start date. We're gonna wait for river flows to be at their all-time low to make it easier to dig. But that's gonna be a nice asset. I think that's gonna have bearing on this as well. And it's gonna provide a place for us to go fill tankers and support that side of Swanton without being directly on Grand Ave interacting with traffic. So, we currently go there for water supply now, but we're taking a, what would you say, 13-minute job, and with a dry hydrant, it becomes 3 minutes. So, because we don't have to set up as much. You're still gonna see us out doing community support and
Oh,
different
thank you, by
events.
the way.
You'll see us again this Saturday. You'll see us at the Memorial Day Parade. You'll see us at the car show. And that's just the things that we got right off the cuff. If there's other events or things going on and you think we can help, give us a call. Are you doing your run again?
5K,
5K?
yeah.
So,
And then possibly, the bistro wants to do a 5K, so we need to have a conversation about
Okay.
that. And then, block party.
so you won't, last year, I believe it was 402 collective hours amongst the entire membership for community outreach and support. I don't think you'll see that many this year because, and there's no wood to knock on, and I hate to jinx this, but there hasn't been any graffiti, so you'll see a decrease in the hours. I'm sorry, but that was a lot of hours, and when, at the end of the year, when I come back and say there's only 270 hours, you'd be like, what happened? You'd be like, well, we haven't had to deal with that.
So,
I'm sorry, Adam.
so lower community
That's
support
okay.
is a good thing on that.
It is an excellent thing.
Exactly.
It is an excellent thing there in that regard.
The fire department did a joint venture with MVR and did a pancake breakfast in this very room. It was a huge success. We put 136 people, community members through the pancake breakfast. A lot of smiling faces, a lot of good feedback. We will be doing it again, hopefully as early as this year, but that's up to Star Hose and MVR. A couple tweaks to the menu, but
It was good.
we're gonna add hash browns. You gotta have hash browns. I fought for hash browns the first time around.
I heard no softball players complain.
The outcome with it, it was very well. I think you'll see a little bit more. We did do this first one at the same time as Maple Fest, so there was that competition with us. So I think we'll see a better outcome with this one, the next one I should say.
It was inside. It was raining.
Yes.
True. So you had
It was actually a lot of fun, and us and MVR, we had a lot of fun together. We had Sparky out front, and we had one of their members trying to pull people in off the street, and no, it was a really good time. It was, so it was fun. You had a couple girls going out in the bay, and there was a little bit of a cooking competition between Mike and Shane, but I don't know who won that. I think they ate the judging. So things coming up. We have already had one discussion about the mini pumper, about the feasibility. I went from that point and started a truck committee, including myself, Lawrence, Matt DePady, and Troy Campbell. And Troy Rushlow, thank you. See, that's why you're here. And we've done a lot of work. We've done site visits to see the ones that I've showed you in the pictures. And it is very much the next best thing for us, for Swanton, to help with fire suppression and vehicle accidents and everything we need to accomplish, while still at the same time being cheap and easy to maintain. The three companies that we'd like to work with and have been working with, and we'd like to further go to the bidding process with at some point, not yet, would be HME, which we purchased from before, E1 and Alexis are the three companies that really strive in making these trucks. We've already had a meeting with E1. They were here, was it Tuesday? Last Tuesday, great conversation, learned a lot of stuff. We actually finalized the drawings with him, and then those drawings will be distributed to the other companies as well, so that we're essentially looking at the same truck. It's not your truck's a little bit different, and then your truck's a little bit different. It's gonna be the same across the board. It's actually a very easy truck because cab and chassis, it is what it is. It's the pump and everything else. So the design phase is essentially almost completed. We have another meeting this Friday, and we will be back later this year to ask you if we can have permission to request bids to see what the actual hard price is, not the soft price. So the important thing to remember is that with meeting with these reps is it's still 2 years to build a truck, so anything we do today doesn't happen until 2027. He made a point to tell us too that we were lucky that we were going for a small one. Small truck's 2 years, a ladder, I'm not asking for a ladder. A ladder is 4 years, doesn't matter who you go through. So it's crazy. Sure.
Pretty much what we're doing for the design, you know, overall goal is what's best for Swanton. So we're looking to see outfit this truck and design this truck in the best way possible with how we operate for the community. Cost effective, I think we set ourselves a goal as far as budget, and we're trying to stay below that. Yeah, I think we're good. One of the things, like Dan had mentioned, with the 3 companies, kind of sound like we were going with E1 as taking the lead as far as things go, as far as distributing the design out. Reason for that is E1 is 10 minutes away, the representative is. So it makes it easier for us to go to him to communicate with the other companies as well, to get us what we need.
And they know, everybody knows that everybody's gonna be involved in the bidding.
Oh, yeah, which is something like HME we've
Yep.
done before, E1 we've done before, Alexis. Yeah, this will be the same as before. So again, Susie had mentioned the swap, engine 1, utility, would leave, Mini would come in, the fleet would go down to 5 trucks, per the community's wishes. We actually sent Tanker out to get a mechanical assessment. Now, that's on the chassis and the truck, not the pump and the compartments. It passed with flying colors, and they went through the whole thing. They went through the injectors, they went through everything.
You sound surprised though.
I was expecting some bad news, given the age of the truck.
Right.
But no, it really did. He's like,
Oh,
drive
that's
for 10,
good. Yeah.
he said drive for 10, 15 years. I'm like, come on. He's like, no, seriously. He's like, your frame's solid. He's like, your pump, your motor, everything looks great. He's like, I can't find a flaw with it. And I was like, what about the electrical? He's like, nope. So you and the P.E.G worked on that.
It's testament to your expertise and maintenance job and all.
Actually, I think it's next year that I'd like to change the dump on it. The dump in this truck goes straight off the back, so depending where you park is where it goes. Modern trucks have a swivel on it. I've asked Lawrence to give me a quote to see what it would be to put the swivel on it, because if we are going to keep it that long, that's going to enhance our ability to where if the truck's parked just a little bit off, we can still allocate the water where it needs to go.
Right.
So that's going to be a nice change.
Still waiting for a quote to come back for that, but once it is.
That'll just come out of the maintenance budget. That wouldn't turn into like a line item or an action. I would like permission to reach out and talk to a broker. So what happens is that E1, HME, and Alexis, they all have their people who are like, okay, can you help me sell engine 1 utility in the used market? I'd rather, you guys are the subject matter experts, and they said yes. I'd like to reach out to a broker to get a hard number on what engine 1's worth, so that when we walk into the numbers game with you the next time we meet, we'll be able to say, okay, my assessment was $100,000. It may not be worth $100,000. It actually may be worth more, but I don't know that. That's just a soft number from the used market. So I'd like permission to do that and to figure out what it's actually worth in the estimated department departure. I mean, if they're going to pay me way more than I thought it was worth, they may leave a little bit earlier versus waiting, months and let it deteriorate value. The per E1 and HME, the used market right now, the tempo is they can't make new trucks fast enough, and there's not enough used trucks to go around. So we're sitting on a pretty hot commodity. So I don't want to lose that momentum.
Right.
So you guys are good with that?
Go ahead.
Okay. Something else that's coming up, probably potentially later this year, just to kind of plant the seed, is one thing Swanton does very well is that we've had a fit testing machine that we use to check the seals on our mask. And you could pay to go to occupational health and have them do it, but we typically buy our own machine and we use it and we do our own fit testing. We also have other departments request doing fit testing from our machine because it's easier. Our machine, I won't get into too many details because there'll be another presentation later on, but we'd like to use money eventually out of the equipment replacement fund, small amount, to replace our current fit testing machine. And I will come back to you later this year with the actual hard numbers, the quotes and everything else, but it is time. They won't even calibrate it anymore. So it's kind of a necessary evil. And again, one of the things the fit testing guys, the airpipe guys told me was that after 4 or 5 years of doing the whole department, you pay for it anyways by going to occupational health. So better off having our own, but that's not on the agenda. That's coming later on. So any questions for us?
Any concerns in the community that you see that might be addressed or might need to be addressed as far as fire and hazards? I know burning season's coming up.
We're in it.
Well, people who want to burn grass, fields, or large-scale areas need to make sure that they're reaching out to the forest fire warden, John Barrett, or the assistant warden, Timmy Gerard. People who want to burn in their fire pits, and thank you for bringing that up. People who want to burn in their backyards, there needs to be a level of understanding and teaching, I think, that needs to go on, because we've had an increased number of calls. Actually, 2 hours before this meeting, I had to go meet with somebody because somebody had something burning in a fire pit and it was affecting the neighbor. And we're getting a lot of those instances to where the neighbor doesn't want to be bombarded with smoke. Per the ordinances, they shouldn't be doing that. So, and I don't think there's that level of education out there. I think we can take time to educate people. I work closely with Susie now because of her being the health officer and making sure that people understand that is something to be concerned about. So maybe just having that dialogue with your neighbor. Hey, what can I do to still partake in something as easy as my fire pit without affecting it to where you're calling me in?
Right.
I think that some stuff like that needs to continue to happen. So
Good.
people who have a lot of debris and stuff and household items in excess in their areas, I would caution them against that. It makes our job harder to go in and get them if we had to. So that's something to take into consideration as well. So.
Thank you. I have no more questions.
We're good.
Well done, good job.
Thank you.
Just
guys.
Also, you need to get Lauren's signature.
Yes.
Working on that.
We talked about that before you came here. It's like Troy's shirt last year.
That's right, exactly.
This way.
Thanks, guys.
You make it to the hotel and everything?
No.
Oh, okay.
All right, number 8. Oh, no, I'm sorry, number 9. Review and discuss electric facility official vote results.
It's not a ratification, it's not board action, it's just discussing into the record the actual results. If you would like me to do that, I'm more than happy to.
Why don't you do that?
Okay,
So
I will
just-
begin.
Can't do that.
So, official return of voting results, annual Swanton Village meeting budget vote, May 6, 2025, ballot accountability. So we have 1,616 members on our checklist. We had a total of ballots counted of 221. 68 of those were by absentee. And I'll read the affirmation by our village clerk, Diane Day. I, Diane Day, Swanton Village Clerk, hereby certify that the results of the electric facility vote by Australian ballot at the Swanton Village special meeting held in the Swanton Village complex in the county of Franklin and state of Vermont on the 6th day of May, 2025 were as follows. Article 1, electric facility, $7,470,815. Yes votes, 148. No votes, 73. No overvotes, no undervotes. Total ballots counted, matched, 221. It passed by 66.9%.
Thank you, village voters.
Thank you, village voters.
Yes, thank you, village voters.
And now number 10. Review and approve Connor Contracting pre-construction contract.
So it's next steps. I sent this as part of your preview package. As you recall, the construction manager contract has a few phases. The first phase was just over $6,000 and got us up to the bond vote, including the special vote from May 6th. This one is in the proposed motion. I'll read it. Proposed motion is the Swanton Village Board of Trustees authorizes the Swanton Village Manager to approve a pre-construction services contract with Connor Contracting for work related to the new Swanton Village Electric Department facility. This contract in the amount of $14,300 is for the period of May 2025 through September of 2025. So that's the proposed motion.
That's the motion, right?
That's the motion.
That's a motion.
He moved.
Oh, he moved, I'll second.
Oh, okay. So we have a first and a second to approve the Connor Contracting pre-construction contract. Any further discussion about the contract?
I'd like to give some updates if it's okay with the board.
Please do, Bill.
Absolutely.
So, you both, Ben, being village president, and trustee Kelleher have been invited to the Wednesday meeting. It's up to you if you want to attend.
Okay.
So essentially, the next steps are meeting 3 concurrent phases that are happening all at once. The BRELA, brownfield mitigation, we're working with our engineers related to that. We expect that to move forward on a timeline that will be expedited. Let's go with that. Come on, trustee Spear. I saw that down there. The other one is the process with the PUC that Lynn is handling for us. We don't anticipate any of that issue. That's essentially the Public Utility Commission saying that they understand our path for financing and securing financing. The third one, and probably the most critical at this point, is the early thought from Connor Contracting is that after a query of many subs, in particular in the MEP, mechanical, electric, plumbing, that they're pretty booked for the rest of the year. So by the time we get ready to go out to bid, the fear is that we can ask for bids from these subs, but they're going to be skyrocket bids. They're going to be over bids because they're already full. And we have to pay winter conditions. So it might seem, and we'll start to determine this on Wednesday, but just kind of as a read ahead, and we don't lose much time, is that we proceed ready to go to bid in January. We get hopefully what's premium pricing. We don't pay for winter rates, heat, winter conditions, things like that. And we start construction in April with a maximum 12-month construction time. Not that much of a delay if it means saving $250,000.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of the timeline.
You have no more discussion on that one?
Not on that one, but all of you might.
Okay.
I'm good. You
Yeah.
good? You good?
Yes.
We have a first and a second.
Yep.
Got further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
Number 11, Bill. Village manager update.
All right, I'd like to tell you this is gonna be quick, but it's not. I'm gonna start with a brand new one. It's brand new because I had a visit from Agency of Natural Resources, Department of Environmental Conservation investigator this morning at 8:30.
Okay.
Two primary issues. The first one I'm handing you is a notice of an alleged violation related to our brush pile. So it really, it doesn't say a lot other than there is a belief that since our original plan received back in 2021, where there was a line of demarcation, so to speak, for where the wetland began and where we could put the brush pile, that we have encroached on that and we're either on the edge or slightly over. So even though this letter was dated May 1st, for the record again, it's May 12th, I just received it today. As the village manager, I have 14 days to reach out to
Mr. Marashak, spoken member of that.
Yeah, so the Crystal Sewell, the wetlands ecologist, I contacted her via email today. She will be on site in person on the 27th I believe at 11, that's off the top of my head, it's been a long day. I'll be there with Dean Ryan, and really, this is probably an abundance of caution. Worst case scenario would be anything that is slightly over the line, we would have to mitigate, remove, pull back. That's all. The root cause, though, is that we, the Village of Swanton, have been taken advantage of by many people, largely outside our community, who have used that brush pile. It is a revolving door. So I asked this question, and I asked the investigator, David Murish, if I could share this with all of you, whether or not our best course of action prior to that visit would be to gate it, lock it. I would really, I don't want to hold anything back from the community. I want to scan this letter and I want to put it on our Facebook page and talk openly about why we're taking this action. Dean went down to the site today, didn't have time to do anything more than identify where he would put the gates. Of course, we have a lease with a farmer. We would give that person a key. We have a temporary contract where we allowed a vendor who's doing work along the Route 7 corridor for culverts to stage material there. Of course, they would get a key. But other than that, with the exception of village employees doing village business, we would lock that down. So what I say to the village residents is this: you get the best of both worlds. If you live in our village, we will go and pick up your brush that you leave out front. We will pick up your leaves and dispose of that. The only ones we're catering to, I contend, is those folks that are outside the village or that have larger piles. But there is no doubt that you're seeing commercial contractors come in and use that place. It cannot possibly fill up so quick without that.
Absolutely.
So this is a massive liability that we need to close the loophole on. What you decide as a board in the future is totally up to you, but this seems like a necessary step during the course of this week to get those gates up, get this posted, and let people know it is now off limits until the results of this investigation come in. And honestly, my recommendations to all of you are we gotta be out of the niceness business of giving a massive place for people to dump commercial levels of brush.
I agree.
For sure. So that's that good news. At the same time, the same investigator
Oh, no.
followed up. You recall that we had an accidental incident at Foundry Street, right outside the pump station in the fall of last year.
Yeah.
So he had requested through Aldrich and Elliott some historical records, and they had indicated that they can be released only with our permission. The problem is neither A&E or this investigator asked us. So he owned it. He said it's all his fault. It's months later now. So we just simply need to disclose any additional records that we have, which are none. Again, the allegation is, well, the concern is that we would have known that this valve, pressure relief valve, was there. We had no idea. And we maintain that Aldrich and Elliott had no idea. If we can prove that, then I think the findings are going to be favorable. But they got to do that last step. So we were all wondering why it took so long, and he, again, the investigator owned it and said that he simply delayed asking that follow-up question. So in response, I sent something to Aldrich and Elliott, CC to the investigator, authorizing the release of any and all information to them so they could complete their investigation. So that's that one.
And he's like the lone investigator for like this whole county. So
He certainly is.
it's,
He's
got a big plate.
he's a busy guy. His approach was good, really.
Okay.
Moving on, you authorized the opioid settlement money. I wanted to let you know that we're well aware that we have to make sure that we have them come in and report. So they are coming in, they being Northwest Counseling and Support Services. They're going to attend a fall Board of Trustee meeting to present outcomes and accountability expectations. They're coming in on October 27th. So folks are aware. So that gives them time. They have acknowledged and they've received from us all of the funds in that account to date. So hopefully good things are going to happen there.
Why are they waiting so long?
They haven't had any action yet. They haven't had one event. They just got the check last week. So over a period of time, that's really not that many events. We're in mid-May.
Yeah.
We're really not that far away from that.
We're only in the second quarter.
We are. If you would like, I can reach out and see if they'll come in quicker, but I don't know that they're gonna have much to report.
Okay, that's fine. It's out of our hands and theirs.
Moving on, Public Works, let's talk about that street sweeper. What an opportunity to talk about that. So essentially it heats up after 45 minutes to an hour and works perfectly before then. Heats up, gives us an error code. The company has that. They've ordered a part. They're trying to track it down. It should have arrived by now. And we hope when they do that part, it'll be a permanent fix. But now I got Dean in the office saying, wow, when it's on and it's working and now they know how to operate it, what a difference maker. So we will get there. Maybe now we know why it was $40,000
I
off.
already talked to Dean.
I already thought that.
Right, isn't he? But he's excited. Well, he'll tell you like it's, and when it is up and running for that 1 hour, hopefully more than that, if anyone wants to take a ride, let us know.
I think
And,
they're gonna add some internal fans or something.
no, I think it's a faulty sensor.
That's the sensor, huh?
That's what they think. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
If you've been down Brown Avenue, you know that pretty significant stormwater project they've begun. They've got 80 feet of it finished, and they're working on that between other projects where they got to put out a few emergent issues. I've had quite a few water leaks and little things around the village lately. It's there's been a lot going on. Dean's shop is going to be busy for the year. Every shop is busy. So let's talk about this one. Let's move on to Marble Mill.
Okay.
This is not necessarily, this is in the category of something for you to think about, but I don't want us to waste resources if the board says we don't want to entertain this. So there's been a request from the public, as well as Swanton Rec, for us to explore the viability and desirability of placing horseshoe pits at Marble Mill. Now, before you take a look at this, it's much more limited area where we can do it than people think. So if you're leaving the parking area and you're walking down toward the tennis courts, the area beyond the skateboard park and playground that looks like a natural area, all of our infrastructure is there, including where our 3 sewer pipes go in under the river and we have access with a Vector truck.
Right.
That is a non-negotiable, cannot put things there, cannot ever impede those. We've used that on an emergency basis several times during the bypass operations. There's a few other areas in there where we might be able to get 1 or 2. The things that the board needs to think about are how would you make horseshoes available for the community? Is there certain liability when it comes to a horseshoe hitting somebody? And there's considerations. So I will explore on your behalf if you want me to, but if it's a no-go, it's a no-go.
Right.
There were 3 originally in the original design. I don't know where they were exactly, but I think that where the skateboard park was.
We couldn't find
I
them.
didn't see anything.
We could not find them.
It's
a big-
design.
In
couldn't
the
find
historical original
Yeah.
map, there's a place for 3 way back.
And where
I don't know if they ever got built though.
The only place you could put them is immediately as you're walking down the path on the left. The right slopes like this. It slopes for a reason. We want that slope to continue. The left side, you could put them in before you get to the skate park. Maybe 2, maybe 3. But again, liability.
I
I
mean,
don't think,
wouldn't the horseshoe pit work the same way that the skateboard park does? Like use at your own
Play at your own
risk
risk.
You
kind
could.
of thing?
yep.
Yeah,
And
it
then,
is.
like, I had spoken to Nicole Draper about the possibility of placing a shed at Marble Mill where it could be staffed by one of her teens and her leadership teens, where they could give out the horseshoes and also have some kayaks to be used or rented, or however, given out for the day to use on the river. So I think that that's a good solution, because then that way people can have at least one pit, 2 pits, and you have a way to borrow shoes, but it would have to be a play at your own risk sort of, or bring your own shoes.
Could do that too.
Bring your own shoes.
But yeah, I think it should be I think we should look into it because anything that we can do to get people into our parks is a good thing. But I just, one of my concerns was a liability issue, and then my other concern was the shoes. Like, how do they get them or use them? But I guess they would have to bring their own or.
Yeah, they gotta bring their own tennis balls, basketballs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like kind of the same thing. So.
To supply the facility, they gotta supply their own equipment.
Would Swanton Rec be willing to fund the horseshoe pits?
I don't know, and I'm not sure that there's much cost. Part of this research
No, I'm
will
sure
be-
there's not, but
Yeah,
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, well, it would involve me reaching out to these community members who are asking for this. There's probably associations that would just bend over backwards to bring in the sand, the one post, and the pressure treated wood,
Yeah.
and probably do the work. I know nothing about
I'm sure
distances, any of that
the
stuff.
one individual who asked would
Yeah.
more than willing
Yeah.
to do the work and
Right.
move towards it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would
So,
say,
If they were willing to do it, I'd let them do it.
Yeah.
I'd give, absolutely. I'd approve that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if they weren't, then
Because it's
I'm,
community involvement.
yeah, I'm sure that the rec would be able to assist in
Yeah.
some
And
way.
I know
Or
it's
even
not that
Vermont
much.
Works for Women, if we provided the materials, they would be willing to do
Yeah.
the work.
Yeah, there were several easy added recreational things that people requested down there. Another one was like adding shuttlework.
Also, just because we're on Marble Mill, during the SEP meeting,
Yep.
SEP has some money set aside for Marble Mill. And I know we talked last year about pickleball mats,
Yep.
but then the fact that the posts needed to be replaced.
Yep.
But the rec thought that they might be able to assist with the replacing of the posts and then SEP purchasing the pickleball mats.
Okay.
So I just wanna put that out there that, that maybe in conjunction, us working with those two entities, we could set up Pickleball Nation.
There were people down there this morning.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
Every day.
they love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that there's a lot of moving pieces and that we have 2 pending grants, and one of them is resurfacing the pickleball courts. So we wouldn't want to do too much work in case we can resurface that whole thing.
Yeah.
To do it all at one time.
Yeah, all at the same time. That was.
Yeah,
I
there's.
The other was
I
for
did
some
mention to
picnics.
her that we were looking at resurfacing it, and so that would be the perfect time to replace the posts.
I don't forget the grant.
I think it's Houghton. Is that how you say it? Houghton Park?
Yeah,
Houghton Park, whatever it is in St.
Houghton.
Albans. They resurfaced it, and it's just pickleball, and it looks awesome.
the,
Yeah, it's really
Really
nice.
great.
Yep.
We also applied for some picnic tables and grills.
Yep.
To help people spend a little more time here.
nice.
No,
So we just wanna coordinate everything.
I have no issue with the horseshoe pits or anything like that. I just, with Dean and his crew being as busy as they are,
Yeah. Yep.
having a community member come in and put them together, build them, all
Yeah.
for it.
Definitely. I think you'd see people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Check on why.
check on the liability, yeah.
Damon, are you gonna be down there throwing some shoes?
It's not really my.
Not your thing?
forte.
Okay.
I need to pick up pickleball this summer.
Okay, fair enough. So I'll start to explore that. The next one, just moving across the road. So you know how we have the boarded up dam overlook, right? And that's ours, that's village. So it's been boarded up for safety concerns and we should move forward on the next best steps for this structure. It's an eyesore right now. You can't go on it, doesn't look good. We're making all kinds of improvements. So it's not gonna be cheap, I don't think. So I can just start getting a price for what it would cost to get it back up and running, which is a minimum this year. Railings that are not made of wood all the way around it, and then maybe the decking as well.
Okay.
Overlook there?
Yeah. Yep. Because I think at one time the history was it was donated. Historical Society, I believe.
Yeah.
Building trades kits.
Yes.
Had VFA Building Trades put it in there.
And BFA Building Trades, when it was Ross at least, had no interest or desire to come up. And now they are not based at all at MVU any longer. They're back at BFA and Ross is gone. So I don't think you're gonna see a class coming up for a small project like that. But we'll get some, when I say we, you and I actually will get some quotes to see what our options are. We'll at least just put it on the project list. I'm not saying we can get it done this year, but it would be nice. Moving on to, I just want to let you know that Heidi, ever present in terms of ensuring that we follow every rule, which is the right thing to do, we finally gotten everything that we need to award the tree removal grant to Gabry and Sons. And we will coordinate with them at the end of the week to get a timeline on that. So the grant dollars are released, we believe, or ready to be released.
It's a reimbursement,
Yes.
so you'll do the work and pay the contractor and then be reimbursed.
So we're kind of hoping that, we get reimbursement, and in this environment, we're nervous, so we want to expedite the work, get those marked, get those cut down. Same thing, we'll do a Facebook post to identify the fact that it's been a long, comprehensive process here. We're not just, the meme that was on there of us cutting down sequoias. Yes.
Jesus.
We are not touching the big one. That is remaining.
Thought that was number one on your
Let's
list.
hope they get it right.
Number one to stay.
Hydro, we talked plenty with our attorney Paul Nolan in the room, but again, we're spilling again. So we're in Runner River as a reminder from April 1st through May 31st. All with the exception of maybe one day, we're spilling. So that means with Unit 2 being down, we're producing about 8.7 megawatts max. And it's been pretty consistent between 7.7. As a reminder, right, it gets too high, you gotta cut back, you gotta shut off Unit 5. There's some restrictions there, but with that being said, we are moving forward with needed repairs. So we're gonna de-water on the 19th because we'll stop spilling in 2 to 3 days, probably by tomorrow. And repairs to the scroll cage for Unit 1 and 2 are planned. So the same thing they did from up top where they put the hydraulic cement in, 15 gallons of it. They're gonna do the same thing from the bottom, and at the same time, remember the vibrations with Unit 2, they're gonna look at the turbine and hopefully identify something that's an easy fix, or tell us that the turbine needs to be repaired, and then that's gonna be a little more comprehensive fix. So
Same outfit from Maine.
3 different outfits will be in at the same time. Same outfit for Maine for the hydraulic solution. There'll be another expert that's in for the turbine look, and there's a third one in. So they'll be in the house, and that's why we've scheduled this company, and we want to do it. So we won't be doing much production during those 3 to 4 days, but we're hoping to find a solution to get our 5th unit up and running. The safety buoys, if you're up there, you'll notice they're not out. It's not safe to do so. The conditions have been such high water. We can't get them out yet. As soon as we can, we will get those out, hopefully by early next week. Moving on to Swanton Village Electric. AMI, same situation, right? We've ordered bill inserts. Well, we're sending out bill inserts. We've ordered the door knockers for notification. We're meeting all the requirements that we need to. We are simply waiting on the software solution. Lynn, do you have any update for us on the software from the call today?
It seems like it's very slow going. Sometimes Dwayne and I wonder if they're actually working on it between meetings. They told him today that this week or next week he will see the Aclara software, I believe it is. They've been testing. Mark has been working with Cogsdale in testing on the test side, the metering. So we're making baby steps, and he's hoping that in the next week or two we can start testing the MTUs, which is for the water meters. So it's coming, but we're hoping to be starting to put meters in this month, and I don't know, we're halfway through the month, so I'm not sure we're going to be able to or not.
Yeah, thanks for that update. Yeah, software is it's not fun. So If anyone's been out in the garage, you know we got 3,800 meters in multiple different spots that we really would like to get rid of and get installed for many reasons.
So just a reminder for those folks out there, the door cards will go out, roughly a week or something before.
Yeah, so we'll do a
For
Facebook,
neighborhoods.
we'll do social media, they'll see a door knocker, and there's warnings, even on the bill insert, about how long your power is gonna be out. It's not as long as it says, we're legally required to kind of say that, in some cases it could be minutes. Like literally less than 2 to 3 minutes tops, so that's what we're hoping for, but yeah, people will have many opportunities to be notified.
The people that are on paperless billing, they're gonna be getting a letter in the mail telling them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Lynn,
On
can
their-
you confirm that?
on
We've
their
talked about
billing
that.
cycle, whichever.
I'll have to double check on how they're doing that. I know right now on the back of the bills, those customers have already been starting to receive the notice on the back of the bills.
Yep.
The door knockers have been ordered. They're gonna be, I believe, a bright orange. And it's gonna be multi-use, like the first line is gonna be in 2 to 3 days, we will be in your area to replace your meter. And then when we go back to do the meter exchange, it'll be another of the same door knocker, but it'll be a checkbox that we replaced your meter today, or we were unable to replace your meter, we will be contacting you to make an appointment. Because in some cases, the meters, they may have to change the metering a little bit so that they can get the new meters in.
Okay.
Thank you, Lynn.
Well, I know there's been internal discussions about that very fact, that if you're, so
Yeah,
you're
I
not
thought
blindsided.
we talked, talked with,
Any other AMI related questions?
no, sir.
Okay. Water, real quick, we seem to be in a better spot now that we've updated the media and the filters, and we're kind of back on track, although, you know, Mother Nature, when you get this dump of rain, it just, it caused some issues again, some alarms over the weekend. A lot of maintenance going on down there to include the complete cleaning of one of the filters, which we have to do every 2 or 3 years. So one of those is going to be taken offline shortly for another cleaning. Moving down to wastewater, so many things going on, but I don't have to spend much time because I'll remind you there's a special Board of Trustees meeting next Monday the 19th, because why wouldn't we do 3 in a row? You know how much I love hanging out with you. To visit the wastewater facility. So again, we'll start at the plant itself, spend as long as we need there, and end on Foundry Street, so you can kind of see what's going on there. The centrifuge experts are here. I will be with them tomorrow morning and Wednesday. So it's not a 2-step process. They brought multiple engineers. So any work that they have to sign off on and then train our operators, they'll be doing in the next 2 days. If all goes well, it'll be running before you get down there on the 19th.
Okay.
That's the game plan anyways.
Been a lot.
That's if all goes well. Last thing, annexation.
Yeah.
So it's nice to talk about something that goes almost flawlessly. So we introduced it this year as H365. If you recall, both Brian Savage and I testified in the House side and went through a couple committees unanimously. It passed the House unanimously. Last week, I think it all runs together, whatever May 2nd was, I testified in Senate Government Operations. Brian Savage testified the following week. Unanimous out of committee 5-0, full Senate for action, passed unanimously. It's on to the governor for signature. So basically, we now own through annexation. Well, we own it, but it's village property.
That's village property.
Always.
Yep. So that's that. That's good. The local option tax discussion has not taken that smooth, seamless path. But keep that on your radar for a likely joint meeting with the select board to have a dialogue about that. I told you it wouldn't take long. That's all I have.
Okay. Super. And what was the big power outage officially?
So the cutouts have porcelain insulators,
Mm-hmm.
and when they fail, they send an
ground.
arc. It's not the right word. They yelled at me today for this. They cause the pole to ignite, basically. Yeah.
That's why it looked like a lightning strike.
Yes,
but
it
it wasn't.
no, it was
So
not.
fried.
It was not, because no, they, so with that in mind, those porcelain products, Dwayne was telling me, we literally, we install hundreds a year to try to stay ahead of this, because they age out.
Right.
And you try to prevent this from happening, but you can only do so much to stay ahead of it. So, the temporary fix was what took them about 90 minutes. And the more permanent fix is a new pole, because the top of this one's severed.
I suspected they needed a new pole
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
Fixed it, huh?
Just temporarily, new crossarm.
Wow.
New crossarm, hold it in place, all good. Yep.
Super. Any other necessary business?
Yeah,
Number 12.
you go first.
Just a shout out again for the Memorial Day Parade, Monday, May 26th, starting at 2. Swanton Fire Department will be doing a barbecue in the park. If anybody is interested in being in the parade, please reach out to me. Time is running out, and want to make sure that the community is proud of this parade. So,
Okay.
you know, we want to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice, and
Oh, and that leads into me.
exactly that's why I'm
That's a
going there.
good segue right there.
See,
Yeah.
teamwork.
Look at that, very nice.
Teamwork.
Yeah, those look sharp.
Those are the banners that'll be going out.
Those look
Yeah,
good.
so obviously this is Staff Sergeant Sanford Gabriel. He died, he was killed in action in Dien Bien province in Vietnam. And he will be going on Merchants Row, where his parents owned a store. He is a graduate, or was a graduate of Swan High School. And he left behind his wife and a young son when he passed. There are several others like him.
Both sides.
Yep, it's on both sides, sorry. Both sides.
Very nice.
And there's several like him. And I compiled a list of them in this book called These Were Our Boys, and it lists all of the killed in action, died from wounds in the Civil War or in World War II, and those who died from disease during the Civil War. And this will go on the joint website, so people can have it, and then there'll be printed copies here and at the town clerk's office in the library that people can pick up with a list of where everybody is. So, do you want me to step forward, or can you give it?
Okay.
It gives a little information about each one, where they were born, where they lived, when they died, where you can find their banner, a little bit about their family, if I could find it. So I kind of spent the last 4 days researching that. So that's, and then the ones for the veterans will be in a separate booklet, which, because I want to keep them separate, and those I'll be working on throughout the summer, and we'll have it ready for Veterans Day. Then the next thing is just a reminder about the Abenaki Heritage Festival, which is the 24th and 25th of May from 10 to 4 at the Swan Rec. And then on the 30th of May, we have the family night in the Village Green featuring the band Third Shift, which that's from 5:30 to 7:30. And then just a reminder, on that same weekend, that Swanton, the businesses downtown are having a sidewalk sale on that Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 3. So that'll be like Bees, Divine Treasures, Vision, Scampers, the House of Pizza, Ace, Missing Piece, the Part Store, and also the Restore is joining in on that. So they're gonna have a little sidewalk sale down over there. Oh, and Tipsy Daisy.
What was that weekend again?
It's the 31st of May and the 1st of June. And that's all I have.
Thank you. And great work on the bands.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Looks awesome.
it does. And that's the end of any other business?
Just to mention, Susie and I were both at, like she said before, both at the SEP meeting last week, which was very informative. They had Monica Green speaking from Vermont Precision Tool, where she's local and they hire local. It was a good presentation, and the beautification committee is in high gear now. They made a presentation and they did some potting last weekend in the rain. So they're getting ready to gear up. And we have some more flower boxes for the bridge, and so they can load those up. Hopefully they'll stay there, but very, very nice meeting. And Susie, I will say, did a very nice job of taking your place, Bill, and updating the set on.
Thank you for doing that, I
They were like,
appreciate it.
Where's Bill? And I was like, I'm Bill.
Thank you. I gotta skip at least one a year, you know, I got softball.
That's all I have.
Thank you, guys.
And it just real quick on the beautification, we're planting this Saturday, so if anyone has time, we're kicking off at 9 in the Village Green Park, so all hands would be helpful.
I think it's supposed to still rain.
Oh, and,
Yeah.
oh yeah, one more thing. Vermont Precision Tools has 10 openings, so if you need a job, please apply.
Wow.
Unless you're a police officer, Damon, and have an interest in that, you wanna come
But
here.
then we have 2 openings, please
Right.
apply.
Yes.
I thought we filled up. Isn't somebody coming back? We got 2
We
part-time.
don't know yet.
I don't know yet.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
in trouble.
Take it.
And number 13 is no-go.
Not needed.
All right, so we're gonna adjourn.
I move that we adjourn at 7:47.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a first and a second to adjourn this meeting. Any further discussion about this meeting?
Oh, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.